Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here for another podcast episode. Today, I have Lisa Johnson with me. She's the co founder of Been There, Got Out. She's a high conflict divorce strategist and a certified domestic violence advocate who successfully represented herself through scores of court appearances. Her case, published in the Connecticut Law Journal, is being used as a legal precedent today. Her live testimony helped pass Jennifer's Law in Connecticut, the third state in America to expand its legal definition of domestic violence to include coercive control. She and her partner, Chris, coach people in high conflict relationships, divorce, custody battles, and co parenting hell so they can have a chance of the best outcome in family court and beyond. They also offer a weekly legal abuse support group for those dealing with narcissistic opponents in legal matters. And their book, Been There, Got Out: Toxic Relationships, High Conflict Divorce, and How to Stay Sane Under Insane Circumstances, was released in 2023. Their first course on how to communicate with your ex without destroying your case or losing your mind is out now. So, Lisa, hello and welcome.
Thank you.
I'm excited to have you here. Tell us a little bit more of your story. What brought you here? How did you become a high conflict divorce strategist today?
I always say that that was not my childhood fantasy at all. I actually never imagined that I would get a divorce. I was with my ex for 20 years and thought I would have that intact family forever. And at some point it got awful and became more painful to stay than to go. And I decided that my kids somehow would have to manage and that I was going to be okay, but it took about 2 years to get to that point. So when I finally talked to a divorce attorney, he knew within 20 minutes that mine was going to be really bad. I don't know how he knew. Now I know how he knew because I interviewed him later on for our book, but he was right. The divorce took a year and cost $100,000, and that I'm paying back forever, those loans. And he told me as we were at the end, your ex is not going to comply. You cannot afford me. He's going to continue to financially decimate you. So you're going to need to go on your own. So let's start planning for you to go back. And I'm here if you need me, but I'm going to get you a paralegal if you need it. And so that was like the beginning. I feel like the divorce, that's just part one. And then there was 9 more years, 7.5, like intense in the family court system. I went on my own because I couldn't afford another lawyer. I mean, I used lawyers at limited scope, for help with certain things, but it was basically me through dozens and dozens of court appearances, learned so much along the way, got extremely frustrated, kept thinking like, here I am, this educated white woman who cannot get orders enforced. Like, what about everyone else? Like, this is crazy. And then Chris and I started Been There, Got Out maybe in like 2018-ish. And I had done a book 20 years beforehand. I was like, oh, it did really well. Had nothing to do with divorce, had to do with backpacking through Europe. And I thought, oh, well, I did so well. So it's going to be really easy to write a book about this, what's happened. And it turns out that publishing and everything else changed in 20 years. And so an agent said, you got to make yourself an expert in this area. So my background is actually as a high school English teacher and a professional writer. So I thought, let me bring my classroom to social media, which I hated. I was never on Facebook. Like, my privacy is my private life. But I thought, I'll do it. I'll do it for the sake of building up this platform. So I started doing things like I did with my old students, my 10th graders. I put out quotes, articles, and tried to get people engaged, and they became engaged. And then I started interviewing people on anything that related to kind of what I was dealing with my ex and the legal system. And during one of those interviews, it was with a woman. She called herself Single Mama Side Hustle. And she had done a book about becoming financially free after getting out of this unhealthy relationship. So her publisher was watching the interview and got in touch and said, would you consider doing a book? And I said, yeah, but we thought about it and we're still building our platform and we're not going to make any money and we're going to do courses. And she said, give me an hour and I will convince you. And I'm a New Yorker and she's a true New Yorker. She's this tiny little woman from New York City, big personality. She convinced me. And so we started putting together that first book. And along the way, I thought we have to niche down. We were doing like everything with just toxic relationships. And then I discovered the term legal abuse buried in a 2015 judge's manual from Washington State. No one had ever put any information out about it. And I looked at it and I thought, this is my life. Like this is what it's called. Now I have a name, just like narcissism. Now I know what it is. And so I want to start a legal abuse support group to help myself and to meet other people who are dealing with it. Plus, being a teacher and facilitating groups, I was like, I can manage. I know how to handle that kind of thing. So in April, I think end of April in 2021, we started the world's first and only legal abuse support group. I thought if we get 2 people, that'll be awesome. We got 12 the first week from all over the world. And I was like, this is it. And then
Yeah.
Chris got his high conflict divorce certification. We put out our shingle on our little Instagram thing and people started coming. And it's been like that since. And so we basically work with men and women all over the world. We say the laws are different, but the issues are the same. All of
Mhm.
them are dealing with some type of domestic violence, and their exes are basically using the legal system to wear them down and bleed them dry financially. So, as we started the group during that time, I was still in court, and I was really close to a lot of our clients because I still felt the rage and injustice and despair every single day. So that was really helpful. But I had been doing really well. Like my ex was found in contempt multiple times. My orders, like I got things my way. I wrote motions that the judge signed into order, but it was like, when are they going to enforce these orders? And
Mhm.
so and during that time, actually in 2021, my ex had appealed 4 times and I argued on the appellate court level, the higher court level, which I was told, oh, this is really serious. But I thought, I'm not going to pay someone $15,000 to speak for me for 20 minutes. I can handle that myself. I know I'm going to win. I did win. And not only did I win, but the case was so notable that it got published as case law for the state, which is everyone tells me it's unheard of for a self-represented litigant, especially a woman. And so that was like a huge triumph. And I was so happy to have our clients around us as that was happening. And it really showed the impact that someone can have. And so with our own clients, we don't like to say, oh, it's corrupt, it's biased. It's like, listen, if I can do it, and I've learned so much along the way, then we will make sure that you will do extremely well in and out of family court. And so that's what's happened. So like I said, our clients are all over the world. A lot of them have lawyers, but many of them are forced to go pro se or represent themselves because you can't afford to keep doing this with somebody who only wants to punish you, that they do not let go. Their anger does not subside. And so I find a lot of power in being pro se. A lot of our clients have had tremendous success. We have a little balloon man. It's like those outside used car dealerships, the little woohoo. So that's our symbol of victory and progress. And every Sunday we have it ready. And there's usually people who are like, get out the balloon man. And we had a huge one this past weekend. So yeah, so I'm smiling now. I was not smiling this much in the past.
I
But
get
that's
that.
that's how we got here.
I get it. I love this. I love this. Thank you for sharing your story. And for so many people, and I love that you work with men and women because it's not just women that go through these issues, men do too. And it is crazy. It's insane the amount of stress, the pressure, the what am I going to do? Why do I feel like nobody's listening to me? Especially when you do have an attorney. In some cases it's like, "Oh, well, you're just the same as the others." And it's like, no, like everyone has to be treated differently because every situation is different. And you want your voice to be heard, but you also want your situation to have justice.
Right.
There's those pieces too. So tell us, I know you do a lot with communication, how to communicate with your ex, how to also regulate yourself at the same time. So
Mhm.
you probably give that space, go ahead, punch your pillow, squeeze it, whatever you gotta do,
Mhm.
and then helping them communicate. Tell us how you got into different pieces of what you do in communication through working with your clients. Tell us a little bit more about the process of what you do when you're working with somebody and how you help them.
Okay, so it really goes back, I think, to my teaching high school English and creative writing. One of my favorite things to teach was the art of persuasive writing. And in persuasive writing and communication, a lot of it involves anticipating the argument that the other side is going to provide and incorporating it into what you're going to say. And so with our clients, we always encourage them before we even get into what am I going to say, is like we have to step back and think, what is your ex's perspective? What do they value? We know money and appearances, but like their specific flavor of how they want to be perceived and what's important has to be used in all communication, whether it's formal negotiation or mediation or just the day-to-day terrorism of communicating back and forth. We always want people to do it in writing as much as possible because we know that our clients are going to be back in court, and it makes things a lot easier when things are documented properly. So having that in mind, everything is about persuasion. So with the communication aspect, and that's what we do more than everything, like combined, everything is communication that turns into your documentation for court. But we start with the idea of that you are writing to your ex, but you are always writing for that invisible audience. There's always this court microscope that you can't see. So everything you say, imagine having to read it out loud in front of a judge or a custody evaluator, someone that's going to judge you. So one of the where did I put it? One of our little props is this. It's a dog muzzle, and we say it's very important to learn to restrain yourself to not pop off, as our clients are apt to do, until we start working with them. And I know everyone's using AI and chat GPT. That can be helpful. That is just a tool and does not solve PTSD. When our clients are hearing from their exes, they still get, and I do sometimes too, that like feeling in your throat, you're someone like, oh my gosh, oh my God, like what is it now? What terrible thing is going to happen? Because we're living with that constant sense of dread. What's the next bomb that's going to drop? When things are quiet, it's scary because you know
Mhm.
something is brewing. So anyway, strategic communication, like I said, you're writing for the invisible audience, and the goal is always to document your ex's patterns of behavior over time and the impact it has on your children and on your relationship with your children. And I say that second part because we know that our exes love to try to turn the kids against us. And so that harms them. It harms us too, but it really affects them deeply. And that is something the court does care about. So doing strategic communication does a couple of things. It turns hearsay into evidence. If you just said, well, this happened, or my kid told me this, that's not admissible in most courtrooms. Maybe an evaluator would listen, but you have nothing. When you put it in writing and you do it strategically, it can become part of the record. So that's really, really important. Second, it turns the power dynamic around. So strategic communication is one of the best ways to get your ex's voice out of your head, because so many people are like, but they're saying this, and if I don't, and it's just like, let's go over the things the court cares about and what they don't, which always calms everyone down because they're just like, but my ex is really convincing, and what if the judge believes that person? It's like, yeah, but here's the law, here's the factors that matter, here's what parental alienation actually means. I've interviewed Dr. Amy Baker. The Baker model is used to build an alienation case. Let's understand what those factors are and how you are not doing it. And if you are, we're going to make you stop right now because it's not always obvious. And at the same time, build a case against your ex for undermining your ability to parent your children. That's the part of how your relationship's affected with your kids. And so, and the third thing that strategic communication does is it protects you from false claims of parental alienation because they're the ones doing it, but they'll say when they don't get their way, oh, it's because you've turned the kids against me. You're doing this. And then everyone's scared. Like, what if people believe it? But again, knowing what it means in depth is calming because it's like, oh, okay. It's not like there's going to be some surprise. Even if someone has an expert witness, it's not going to change the facts of your case. And so we have a client down in the South, actually. There's a lot of like big issues involved with her ex. He's very wealthy. He's from another country. There's racial stuff involved. And his relationship with their children was never very good. She has evidence of that. So before they even split, this is not something that, they split and she turned the kids against him. He convinced a therapist and like a guardian ad litem in the beginning, surface level, that possibly parental alienation was taking place, and they started coming at her with that, and she was like, oh my gosh. But because she knew those factors, she was able to answer, because she knew more than them about what it meant. She's like, look, I know that I have not been blocking contact and communication. Here's my evidence of every single time I've tried to support that relationship with him, blah 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 blah. And they shut it down. She shut it down. I was like, because she had her communication, she had her evidence to show how she was not doing it, and she could name the different factors. Because people throw that word around a lot, but it actually there's 6 factors that have to be proven, and if there has been abuse beforehand, that kind of cancels it out, and you have evidence, and that's a whole other topic. But anyway, so strategic communication is really, really powerful. That turns into something we also do with our clients called targeted documentation. So everyone's like, I have binders, I have all this stuff, and I'm giving it to my lawyer. That is like such a waste of time and energy, because lawyers are like, their job is to translate your case into the law. So targeted documentation also goes back to some of those factors, depending if it's a custody case or if it deals with domestic violence, which is separate from custody. A lot of people don't know that. We separate domestic violence and custody, and give them the stuff that relates to the issues that relate to the law, instead of just everything, or else you're spending tons of money and your lawyer's probably frustrated because they have other people to attend to too. So that's something we help people with. Another thing, one of my favorites, is presentation. We know that your ex is a manipulative con artist, pathological liar who loves the new stage of court. But our job, and we know our clients do really, they come in traumatized, they're a mess, they're scared, they're fighting for their safety and their kids' safety, and they don't present as well. So I always say our job is to make you as calm as possible, not by saying calm down, but to have you focused and organized on the stuff that counts. So you're not just like afraid of the unknown. We already know your ex's attorney's going to bully you in court. So instead of being like, I hope they don't, no, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. So let's figure out how to respond appropriately. So that's very soothing when people know it's going to happen and I'm going to deal with it. And if I can get through the next 3 hours, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be exhausted. I'm not going to sleep for the next 2 nights, but that's normal. Like, it just makes things easier to deal with. So that helps a lot. Let's see, we deal a lot with how to handle when your ex turns the kids against you. That's our current book. Actually, it's called How to Handle When Your Ex Turns the Kids Against You in Court and in Life. Going pro se is a big thing we work with people on, and taking strategic oversight of your case. That's a big umbrella term for realizing that these cases, because Chris and I only deal with high conflict, these are different. These are the cases that fatigue lawyers. They go on for years. They cost tons of money. There's so much detail. Nobody else can keep up. You know your case better than anyone else. Let's use that knowledge as leverage. Let's understand that the typical logical belief that, oh, that person's going to come to the table and be fair and do what's best for the kids is not going to happen, because they only care about themselves. So we need to approach mediation, negotiation very differently and stroke their ego, make them feel like they're winning, you're suffering. There's all kinds of techniques to do with that, but it cannot be done the logical way, because it just doesn't work. And I probably said this to you, Macy, in the past, but our clients all belong to the "my lawyer says this is the craziest case they've ever had" club, because they don't see these cases often. This is only like 10-ish%. So understanding that and being like, I need to be more collaborative with my attorney. I need to educate my attorney. I'm not going to do their job for them, but I know what works. I was in this unhealthy relationship probably for years, and I learned a lot along the way about how to appease this person, what makes them mad. Use that knowledge. Do not repeat the same cycle of, I got out of this terrible relationship. Somehow this person was the authority, and now I'm going to hire a lawyer and they're going to save my life and they're going to take care of things. No, this is your life. Like, you got to put on your big girl panties, your big boy panties, and be like, I need to know what's going on. Like,
Yeah.
I can't just think that someone else is going to be responsible for my family, myself, and my kids. Like, I need to know what every motion is being submitted. I need to know what the proposals are. I need to know what I'm signing. I need to proofread it. I can't just say, oh, it's drawn up. Oh, I don't know what I signed. I was coerced. No, you need to pay attention. And so
Yeah.
having people that to remind you of all the things you need to do, that's called taking strategic oversight of your case. So those are the main things that we teach.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot. That's
I
a lot
know.
of value. That's a lot of work that you guys do. And look, even just hearing you say some of these things, like I can feel myself like falling back into like, oh my God, somebody hears, like there's somebody that listens, there's somebody that pays attention to these things. Cause I know for some people and some of my clients, when they're going through the thick of it, they're having those conversations with their attorneys. And I work with a lot of women who have been through abuse cases and everything. And when they're conversing to me and they're having conversations with their attorney, it's like their attorney's ears get turned off.
Their attorney's
And
not trained for this.
yeah, and
That's
I
not their job,
yeah,
but we
and so
all
I
do it.
yeah, and I love that you guys equip them with that knowledge, but not only that, the law knowledge, because I think that's where a lot of things get tripped up is I don't know the law, I don't know the law, what do I do here? What do I do here? And so I think having that is so valuable. So thank you for what you do. I'm just applauding you. Like I
No.
love this. What would you tell somebody who, let's say, like some of my clients who they do struggle with their attorney and they're trying to be seen, they're trying to be heard, they're nervous to go find somebody else. They're
Mhm.
nervous to go get, waste more money, more time. And it's like, I'm still not being heard. What if, even in those, my judge is difficult, my judge doesn't grant this? What would you tell somebody in those situations?
Okay, so the thing is, everybody wants to be heard. They want a judge to hear them. Judges are not going to hear them. Generally, that's not the place. That's not the court's job. The court is to decide time and money. They're limited. They're not there to validate you. But in the movies, it looks like A Few Good Men, like, oh, punishment is going to rain down on my. Doesn't ever happen. Maybe like this, but generally not. One of our male clients was he was pro se and he made a judge cry, like in a good way. The judge was like, "Oh my gosh, you're so." I have never heard of anyone else making a good judge cry, but he was able to do it. Anyway, so to understand that a judge is not the place to get the courtroom, and a judge is they're not the place for validation. Your lawyer is not the place for validation either. Support groups of people who are lifting you up and not keeping you in a trauma loop. That's the place to get validation. Through writing is a place to get validation, but not in the legal system, because that's not what they're intended to do. I mean, they're supposed to give justice, but that doesn't mean that they hear you. So also the other thing is, everything is time limits everything in court. Judges, courts are completely overburdened. So Chris and I like to say, and we actually just looked up the actual price tag yesterday. It's like you're paying $8 million for a 30-second Super Bowl commercial. You have a few seconds. You have to be tight. You have to know what you're there for, what you're asking for, and what you're entitled to. And then you have to be ready to convince whoever's listening why you're entitled to, using the timeline of your case and the law, case law, whatever, factors, whatever it is. So knowing that if you come in, and I certainly made this mistake, I'd write these beautiful speeches and I'd start talking and the judge would be like, Miss Johnson, get to the point. And I'd be like, oh, what page is point on? It's like, what
Fumbling
point of
through.
the
Hang
page is
on.
like, I don't know what my point is. I want you to hear me. And so I had to learn to pivot really quickly, and my writing got better, and my presentation got a lot better. So understand, it is not the place for validation. There are places for validation. Our support group, there is so much validation in that group. be careful of groups that just want to keep you complaining and feeling like everything's unfair and it shouldn't be this way and the system has to change, and doom scrolling, like absorbing content that's all about negative things, kids dying, people being murdered. Like, it's important, not for you right now, because that will affect your brain and it will affect your case. You will feel helpless. You will feel like everyone's against you. That is not where you need to be. You need to be strong. Start following things like Upworthy, good news, puppies, kittens, people singing together. Like, your brain needs a break. So I understand the need to certainly research, but do not let it overtake your life. It's going to ruin your case. It's going to ruin your kids. Like, we have to keep you afloat, get you through this. Then if you're still interested, yes, you can become a domestic violence advocate and get involved. A lot of people are like, I really want to get involved with helping other women or helping other people. It's like, focus on your own case. That's a trauma response, to be distracted. Let's come back here. Let's do what you can. Chris has a little thing that he made with like a Simpsons comic. It says, leave the torches and pitchforks to other people right now. You need to focus on this. So, back to the thing about validation. Don't depend on your lawyer. Lawyer's job is to be your ally, advocate, communicate well, and translate your case into the law. Many of them do not have bedside manner. But if you find yourself frightened to talk to your attorney, that's a red flag. You need to trust your attorney. If you are just like, they're really not listening to me, they're not responding to me, this has been for a while, I don't feel good, then it might be time to change. Because but understand that lawyers are not trained in domestic violence, a lot of them. So that's where we talk about a team of people. You've got friends and family if you haven't been isolated. A lot of times they love you, but they don't really get it. You've got the lawyer whose job is to translate the case into the law. Maybe you have a therapist or a domestic violence advocate. They want to help you heal and all that other stuff, but they don't understand the trauma of legal abuse in the courtroom. And then people like Chris and I, high conflict divorce strategists, we always say we kind of fill the gap between what attorneys are not trained to do and therapists don't quite understand. Because sometimes therapists give like bad legal advice and people listen and they get in big trouble. And lawyers
Mhm.
will tell you just to get therapy and act really dismissive. And it's like, this is not just some simple little thing. Like, I can't just get over it.
Yeah.
So it's important to have the different people, and then sometimes like financial and real estate professionals too. But it takes a team for these kinds of cases.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I think it takes the whole world. It takes more
I
than
know,
a team. It takes the whole world to help you.
I know, but so many
Oh, I
people
watch
don't
some of my clients go
understand.
through some of these things and I'm like, "Oh my God." Like there's so much involved. And most of them are in therapy as well, or they have been to
Yeah,
get that support. And it's like, how long can we keep spinning these wheels? So I love that you're saying get off the content, don't doom scroll, don't do anything that's going to bring you lower than kind of like where you already are. Focus on what's the goal? What's the end goal? What are our main focuses on the kids and
yeah,
protecting your kids. And at the end of the day, I know for a lot of people, like that's the final thing is to go through your mind of for the kids. For the
yeah,
kids. We could sit here, we could battle all day long, it's totally fine. For the kids, this is the goal. And, protecting them and protecting yourself as well. Cause in some cases it's really
oh
high
yeah,
conflict,
yeah.
very domestic violent.
Well,
So
when you talked about talking, like the therapeutic stuff, like that's helpful. Our clients, I think, like us partially because we give them stuff to do.
yes.
Because it's like, I can't keep thinking about it. What do I do? So a lot involving that kind of communication, putting the documentation together into a narrative. Like, we like to say that we give practical, actionable advice because people are like, what do I do right now? Our business is crisis driven. So people in crisis feel helpless. So they
Mhm.
need something to do with that spinning brain.
Yeah, and especially high achievers, because I know you said you work
Yeah.
with a lot of, people who just, "Why me? How did I get here? I do," kinda like you, like, "I'm an educator, I do all these things. How did I get stuck in this? How did I miss the cues, the signs?" And so you kind of fall into that those self-worth and all the trauma aspects that come with it of, "Woe is me," "How did I fall victim?"
Can
And
I address that?
yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
you
Go take it
finish.
away.
Yeah.
Take it
Yeah.
away.
Okay. So yeah, a lot of our clients are super successful, very well educated professionals. Like I always say, we've got lots of attorneys who always feel kind of embarrassed because they're attorneys. Mental health professionals who often say, I should have seen this. This is what I do. I can't believe it. So there's this, added level of shame because they are so successful. They're the role models. They're the ones whose friends and family say, well, you of all people, like I never thought you'd be so stupid without saying that. But like, how could you have stayed so long? Why didn't you just, I hate questions. Why didn't you just, as if it's so easy? It's not. So I think it's important to remember that because you're so successful, and so responsible and empathic and creative and amazing. That's why you were targeted. The person that you are with is a parasite. They glom on to people. We call them our shining stars. If you weren't such a shining star, they wouldn't have picked you. So instead of beating yourself up for being like, I should have known, no, be like, well, I should actually feel really good because
I am
I'm one of the
amazing.
best ones that was picked. Like those people don't have a strong sense of self. They look for people who make them look good. So
Yep.
you made that person look good. That
Yep.
should make you feel good. I know you don't feel good right now, but at some point you're going to realize that's why they picked me, and poor them because now they don't have me anymore. Who are they going to,
That's
then they
right.
find someone else to glom onto. But that is
And
that is not
yep.
you. It's a good thing that you were I mean, it's a bad experience, but it's a good thing that you were picked.
Yeah.
And it affects
And
1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men on average.
yes. Yes.
It's a huge number, and 1 in 2 people do not realize they're in an abusive relationship. I didn't for 20 years, well, for 18. Those last 2 years, I got it.
When you finally get it, you're like, oh, that's
Yeah,
what this
it's
is.
like, oh, God, I was an idiot for all those years, but
Yeah. Yeah.
what
But
are
I
you gonna do?
and 100%, you are like I tell my clients, you're the queen. You are the
Right.
queen. People look up to you in certain ways. They attract to you in so many ways for how amazing you are and what you do. And keep shining, but let's empower you in your shine. Now
Mhm.
that the realization is there, now that all these pieces are there, let's empower you. And I feel like a lot of the work that you guys put into it is empowering people to make life better, to get past the funk of things and be able to empower them on the other side, like life beyond, the relationship, life beyond being stuck in court, life beyond all these things. So I'm curious, do y'all do a lot of repair with kids, relationships with kids, and working with the parents on those who are trying to battle what's going on the other side and what's being said? Do y'all
Yeah.
also, yeah, okay, tell me a
So
little
so
more.
especially now, with the book that's coming out, in January 26th, about, when your ex turns the kids against you, which we know is going to happen. It's happened while you were still in the relationship. They've been grooming the kids to kind of minimize you because that's what they've done. And they need their loyalty, and that's a whole big issue. So a lot of parents are like, when we meet them, they say, my ex is doing this and I feel my kids pulling away, or it's happening and I'm scared. I'm scared that my kids are going to be ruined by this. Like they're emotionally abusing our children. What do I do? So there's a lot that you can do outside of court. And also there's things to watch for to start preparing a court case. One of the most important things for a court case and a big red flag is when someone starts violating the parenting plan, when they deny you access to your kids and make excuses, they don't want to see you, we're busy, then you have to start going hard. Unless it's like there's a trade or a swap, but when it feels like
Mhm.
this consistent thing where it feels different, maybe the kids start resisting being around you, they're questioning you a lot, they're saying, when I come back from my other parents' house, they're saying all these terrible things about you. We need to nip that in the bud, starting with strategic communication. And one of the lines that we like to use a lot, that's part of our method, is something we call the universal agreement. And it's coming up with something that you both can agree on, which matches the values of the court. So when the beginnings of those poisonous messages start coming back, we like to, and it depends, because sometimes kids don't want the other parent to know that they've told you. So this is not something to do every single time. But if you were getting ready to document for a court case and you cleared it with your kid, to note what's happened and to say something like, I'm sure we can both agree how important it is to shield our children from any conflict between us, because that is something the court cares about. There's something called a non-disparagement clause that's written into most agreements and court orders that says you are not to badmouth each other. The kids deserve to have a relationship with both of you, and that's that. And, this is separate from documented abuse, obviously, and that's a whole other
Mhm.
thing. But getting that in writing, like the things that that other side is doing, and in doing it in a strategic way where you're not blaming, but sort of like, they said this, I don't know if it's true, but I'm sure neither of us wants this to be the case. Like, we don't want the kids to be involved in the conflict. It lines you up to look like a great co-parent when you go back and you can have a whole bunch of messages about things that person said or did that they haven't disputed. And then, other than just saying you're a terrible person and not even address the fact of what they've done, that can be very, very helpful. And yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I love
Yeah.
that. It sounds like you're addressing the thing as a whole, which is
Yeah.
fabulous. And that's what people need because when their brain starts ticking and going and it's like, I'm pulled in a million directions, what do I do?
Yeah, because they feel helpless.
Yeah,
But
yeah. And
they're but y
especially when
Yeah,
there's nobody else that's been through it and I feel like they don't understand.
yeah.
And that's the common things that I also hear. So yeah.
22 million people. I just did an interview this morning with Charlie McCready, who's an alienation coach in the UK. And he quoted a statistic that I know as well. It's that 22 million people in America and Canada alone are experiencing what we just talked about,
Yeah.
where once
Yeah.
they separate, their ex is trying to make the kids think that they're a bad parent and or a bad person. It is rampant. It happens all the time. Most people don't talk about it. People are ashamed to say it because they think if I say my kid doesn't want to talk to me or something's happening, people think I'm a bad parent, especially as a woman.
Mhm.
Your kid is choosing to be with their dad. You must be a terrible mother. So people are silent. It happens to lots of men. It happens to many women too. It causes more heartbreak than anything that I've ever seen.
Yeah. Oh, that's a big number. That's huge. That's
Mhm.
huge.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, I know we could talk about this for hours. We
I
could
know.
go
We
on
talk
for
about lots
days.
of
I have
things.
enjoyed having you here and like being in this conversation with you and getting to know more about what you do and how you serve so many people across the world. I love that. Tell us how they can find you. Tell us if you have something that you want to give to us today. Just share that. And yeah.
Okay, so I'll talk about the freebie first. So we have this free webinar on strategic communication that gets a little bit into the elements and gives some example. And we tried to use some humor. I think Chris is a game show host in part of it where we go over a little bit of what we've taught. So you'll put the link in
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
notes.
Yeah. We'll put that in there.
Yeah, so that's a lot more about strategic communication. And then you can find me and Chris so easily. Just Google been there, got out. We're everywhere. But Instagram is my home base. That's where I put out the most content. We also have a podcast and a YouTube channel. This is what our first book looks like. The next one's going to look kind of similar, but just have a different subtitle. And it's just Chris and I. So you can reach out via email, Lisa at or Chris at beentheregotout.com. We always answer. And if
Awesome.
someone has
Awesome.
like a bigger issue, they can go to our website, beentheregotout.com, and schedule a free discovery call, which is a Zoom meeting with Chris and I where we have an actual conversation and see what's going on and how we might be able to help.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank
My
you for
pleasure.
all the resources and everything that you do. And look, I'll be bringing you back 1000%. So
Okay. Good.
thank
Well,
you
if it
so
can
much.
help people, because I'm so tired of seeing people
Yeah.
feeling helpless and living with that constant sense of dread for years.
Yes.
You don't
Yeah.
have to. You
Yeah.
shouldn't be.
No, you shouldn't. So, and that's how we work together on this, the
Yeah.
trauma healing side and what you do to ease through that as well. So I love it. All right, guys, go check all those links. Go follow them on Instagram, Facebook, all the platforms, and we'll see you on the flip side.